For this video, I've made an extensive research analyzing hundreds of different opening traps that I published on this channel in 2021, picking the deadliest ones. It took a lot of time to pick those with the highest success rate and highest probability of happening in your games. Therefore, right now you're going to be learning the best of 2021. But before we jump to the traps, let me also send my warmest Christmas greetings to you and your loved ones. I hope that you're having a great Christmas season, and I just gotta say that I'm truly delighted and privileged to be able to communicate with you, even though it's just an online communication. But with some of you guys, we actually managed to meet in person, which was a lot of fun. And chess players are some of the smartest and nicest people I've ever met. That's why I'm truly delighted to serve you as best as I can, and I'm definitely determined to keep doing that. Alright, without further ado, let's jump to the traps. And the very first trap arises from the most classical chess opening, e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, but here, instead of playing something like bishop c4 or bishop b5, you suddenly land your bishop on e2. And who would have thought that bishop e2 sets a very clever trap? It comes as a big surprise for black. And they may just play bishop c5 as they normally do in the Italian game, when your bishop stands here on c4 instead of e2, and seems like there's no difference here, right? But all of a sudden it makes a huge difference, and bishop c5 turns out to be a bad mistake, which puts black on the brink of disaster. And that is why, by the way, this trap is so widely successful. Here you come up with a sudden knight takes e5. What's the point? Well, black normally will take here on e5, and you respond with pawn to d4 with a double attack to both black minor pieces. At first it may seem like just an exchange. Okay, you sacrifice the knight and now you're gonna get it back. But it's not that simple, because after black takes here on d4, you recapture with a queen, and there's just so much of great stuff going on in your favor right here. So first of all, your queen is very active, it attacks the knight, it can't go away or else you'll win this pawn on g7 and keep destroying the black's kingside position. Also, overall, your position is just so active. If you just look at this, your knight is ready to jump here, your bishop is very active along this diagonal, the second bishop is controlling a whole lot of the chessboard, and black is completely underdeveloped. The only knight which is developed on e5 is actually vulnerable and it's been attacked. So overall, you can clearly see that you're gaining the upper hand here. But also, speaking about this more specifically, black needs to protect the knight, but then you just play f4, pushing it away, and wherever it goes, you just happily win this pawn on g7, you're a pawn up, you're having more active position, two bishops, what more could you ask for on move 8? Let me show you one more thing that may happen if black tries to counter-trick you. So, they play bishop c5 here, you grab this pawn on e5, and here instead of knight taking e5, which we already analyzed, they may also try a counterblow with bishop takes f2, saying that, okay, if I'm going to lose this bishop anyway, let me sacrifice it here and open up the white king. But it turns out that it's actually even better for white in a way, because after king takes, knight takes e5, you can notice that now you're having the central pawn, which is normally stronger than a flank pawn. So the central pawn is very powerful. As soon as you push it forward to d4, you're going to get complete dominance all around the board. And while it seems that the king is a bit exposed here, the thing that you can do, which maybe not the strongest, but the safest option, that's why I would recommend, is just go on rook to f1. So that you never have to worry about this king anymore. If black ever delivers any kind of check here to your king, you just move it backward to g1, and your rook is extremely active here, and black achieved nothing. Therefore, you never have to worry about any kind of checks in the future. And, you know, you may even wish to move your king to g1 yourself in the future. And even though temporarily it may feel like black's position is okay, but it's gonna fall apart real quick. For example, let's say they go knight f6, threatening this pawn. Okay, you protect it and develop a knight, and then let's say they castle, and you can bring your king to g1 indeed, putting the king to safety and opening up the rook right here. Now they're going d6, and after that d4 comes, you know, sooner or later you're gonna play this move, push the knight away, build up this beautiful pawn center. Now they go with their knight somewhere, doesn't matter, and you bring the bishop over here to g5, put in this pin, and black is actually already done, even though it seems like they were just only trying to finalize their development. But this pin is actually deadly. You can bring your other knight to d5, or you can attack this knight in any other way. You're ready to take it and expose black king anytime you want, and yeah, you're just winning here. That's it. The second trap happens in the Scandinavian defense. By the way, we're still covering traps for white, so for this video I'm gonna keep it up with the traps for white only. And if you love this format of videos where I pick the 5 best opening traps of 2021 for white for you, you may also vote for the continuation and I'll record it for black. Okay, so give a like to this video, and if it gets 1,000 likes, I will record a continuation. Because I actually feel a bit lazy. It takes a lot of work for me to prepare it. That's why I want to make sure that you guys really need this. All right, let's go ahead with e4. And then if black responds with pawn to d5, known as Scandinavian Defense, you actually take here and go knight c3. Here black has a couple options of where their queen should go to. And in this case, we're going to focus on queen to d8. Even though they may play queen a5 or queen d6, more modern approach, but actually I was surprised to know that queen d8 is the most played move. Still, even though like it's the oldest move, but yeah, people still keep using it. There you go with pawn to d4. And if black wants to play actively, they need to try their best to attack this pawn somehow, because otherwise they're just ending up with a passive position for no reason. So the only activity they could possibly try is knight c6, aiming at this pawn on d4. And then if you play knight f3, kind of inviting them into playing bishop g4, the move which most of the amateur players are so tempted to play because it looks just so good, pinning down this knight and renewing the threat to this pawn on d4. Looks like all is cool for black, but you play pawn d5. Your opponent thinks, okay, let me just take advantage of the pin once again, playing knight to e5. But then, of course, first of all, if you're my long-term subscriber and a good guy, you know what you gotta do, right? First of all, you should save this. And after that, you can happily take the knight right here on e5, offering the queen sacrifice, because after that, you've got a deadly follow-up bishop b5 check. It turns out that there is not much black can do here to cover their king. The only meaningful move is pawn c6, but you take it anyway, and now you're threatening either to push the pawn forward and therefore attack the queen, or to take here on b7 with massive destruction. There is nothing black can really do to stop these both threats, or even one of them. The best they can is pawn a6, attacking the bishop, but you push c7 anyway, discover check to the king, as well as attack to the queen, therefore they would have to take. Now you take the queen, rook takes, knight takes d1, and at the end of the day we can see that you're up a piece, this extra knight on e5, and it's time for black to resign. Around this time of the year, people often come up with New Year resolutions or things that they wish to achieve in the next year, 2022. And if you have any chess goals that you wish to accomplish soon within the next year, or at least the first months of the year, then I'll be happy to help. Of course, right now, because of the Christmas season, we're having Christmas offers where you can get any of our advanced premium courses with a 60% discount, which I think probably is the biggest discount that we ever offer. And yeah, so you can click the link on the screen or below the video, check this out and find something that'll suit your needs and help you to progress in chess faster than ever. And let's jump back to the rest of our puzzles for now. The next trap is super effective just as well, happens in the dragon variation of the Sicilian defense, where black fianchettos their kingside bishop. Here, instead of any standard moves such as bishop e3 or f3 or whatever, you play pawn to f4. And they're very likely to put their bishop on g7, because that's why they played g6 on the first place, right? So, but if they play bishop g7, it actually puts them in a very dangerous position, because you're gonna hit in the center with pawn to e5. And even though it's not really completely winning for you yet, but if black plays bishop g7 here, it already shows to you that they aren't ready, they aren't prepared. And under those circumstances, you're most likely to win, because the most probable continuation here, according to the database and statistics, is to take here and black goes knight g4, and then you have bishop b5, an extremely annoying check that wins the game suddenly. What's the problem? Well, black can't cover with the knight because this square is controlled 2 times with your knight and bishop, therefore you can simply take it and win some material. So that's not an option. What else could they do? Well, if bishop d7 or knight d7, then this knight on g4 loses the protection, and you can just simply take it for nothing. This bishop is pinned, so it can't go away, and therefore you just won the knight for nothing. So that's not an option either. What else could they do? Well, after calculating the previous lines, they come up to the sad conclusion that, okay, I have to move my king and lose the right of castle, so they think, okay, I move my king, but at least I'm saving the knight. But here it turns out that you've got, you know, an even stronger continuation, which is knight to e6. A brilliant discovered attack here of the queen, And not only the queen attack, after a bishop takes and queen takes here on d8, it's actually a checkmate. And again, we're going over the most probable scenario that happens in the majority of the games played in this called live and fish variation of the dragon variation. Extremely strong. I've also have a separate video where I analyze this opening in details with some other options that black may choose. So if you're interested, you may check this out. I'm saving the best for last, and now we have a couple truly evil traps, some of my favorite ones, especially the next one. But right now, let's check out the trap in the Caro-Kann Defense. Here we go for knight c3, d5, and instead of playing pawn to d4, which would lead to the main line, you play another move, knight to f3. And it's an absolutely normal move. There's nothing wrong for, happening to you in case black doesn't fall into the trap, but they can easily fall into it, because if they continue similarly to the main line, pawn takes, knight takes, bishop f5, same to the main line of the Caro-Kann, knight g3, bishop g6, then you continue h4, threatening to play h5 and trap this bishop, therefore they need to play h6, and we're getting the position which is very, very closely similar to the main line, where white has the pawn on d4, instead of the knight on f3. So in the main line, the knight still stands back there on g1. And at first it seems like, well, it's not a big deal, right? Not a big difference. The position is more or less the same. But it turns out that it isn't. Because right now, thanks to you having this knight right here on f3, you're ready for a sudden attack with knight to e5, threatening to take this bishop and completely destroy black's pawn structure on the king side. Therefore, they're going to go bishop h7, and then your queen comes out to h5. Looks like a very primitive one-move threat, but what can black do about this? Well, almost nothing. They have to play g6, which is a very sad and ugly move. Now, after you move your queen away, this bishop on h7 is out of the game forever, and this whole construction of black on the king side just look awkward. But you can play queen f3, very strong move, potentially the strongest, but there is also another one which is quite funny. You can actually go ahead and play bishop c4, offering the queen here, because after that you've got a funny checkmate, bishop takes f7. I mean, it's very funny that you could defeat an entire black's army with just two minor pieces. Quite cool. Alright, what else could black do? Well, they might notice this and play pawn e6 and be happy about their position, but then okay, you just move your queen back, and after black plays virtually any careless move, which they do, something like bishop g7, then you've got another blow, which they are usually overlooking. It's knight takes f7. Because by now, black thought that they already countered all of the threats that you had, and now they can finally happily finish their development, but that's not the case, because knight takes, forking black's queen and rook, black has to take, but then queen takes e6, follows up with queen to f7, kind of like a scholar's checkmate delivered in some other way, and white is winning. And perhaps my most favorite trap happens in Sicilian Defense, or rather against the Sicilian Defense, where you play a timidly looking move pawn a3. Which just brings me crazy results in Blitz. I mean, I win majority of the games that I played because black really cannot comprehend how come that this awkward side move pawn a3 could put them in danger, but that is exactly what's going on here. They go knight c6 normally, trying to prevent you from playing b4, because they are controlling it 2 times, but you play it anyway. And after they take it, knight takes, then you play c3, driving this knight away. After it goes back, d4. Previously, it seemed like white is just playing some random moves of a beginner player, but now black starts realizing that it's not all that simple. You're threatening pawn d5, you have these beautiful pawns in the center, an open file for the rook, and therefore you already have sufficient compensation for that pawn. But black thinks, okay, let me stop d5 by playing d5 myself. That's how they usually think about this, because indeed there is no other easy way to stop that. And then you take it, queen takes, and knight to a3. Another sneaky move on a3. It's also quite unbelievable that 2 times in this game white first played the pawn a3, which was extremely tricky, and now knight goes to a3, another weird move which is extremely tricky as well. So I'm really in love with this trap, and something fascinating. And here, like, something mind-blowing happens. If black goes knight f6, this is a losing mistake, a deadly, critical losing mistake, absolutely terrible move. Would you ever imagine that a knight f6, a move like that, could be a terrible losing mistake? I mean, I never saw, I think, anything like that in an opening so early. Usually it's the move that you should play, right? All classical chess books teach beginners to develop their knights like this. But here it's just losing, because after knight to b5, you're threatening this triple fork, knight to c7, attacking the king, queen, and rook. And basically there is nothing black can do to stop that. If you wish to support the knight coming there, you can always bring your bishop right here to f4 so that it provides additional support, but even without it, there is not much black can do. And if black decides to move their queen back, let's say queen d8 to cover this card with a queen, then you've got another powerful move, pawn d5. You're attacking this knight, driving it away, taking advantage of the same tactical pattern, knight goes to c7, because black can't take the pawn here on d5. If they do, let's say with the knight, you can now temporarily sacrifice your queen, because after that you're going to gain it back, and along the way you're winning the knight, right? So you're up a piece here. It's not an option for black. Let's go back a few moves and see what else black could do here. So after you push the pawn to d5, they have to move their knight away. Let's say knight e5, and then you play bishop f4, attacking this knight and putting the bishop right so that it can support this attack along this diagonal, and black is defenseless, so they're just losing. For example, if they go knight g6, you continue with knight to c7 check, attacking the king and rook, but after that you don't even have to take the rook because bishop b5 is just checkmate. Pretty cool. By the way, I also have a dedicated video about this opening, so if you want to dive deeper into this, you're welcome. I hope that you enjoyed my compilation of the 5 best opening traps of 2021 for white. If you're interested in the same video for black, then please vote for it, give a like to this video, and I'll know that you guys are truly interested, and I'll make that video. Also, don't forget that our special offers in order to celebrate Christmas and New Year and this whole holiday season are only good till January 1st. Therefore, not miss out, you may click the link below the video and find something that you like and give yourself a nice Christmas present. I hope that you'll have a great rest of the day. Wishing you all the best for this Christmas season. Talk to you soon.